So rank passes on Davis Mills, but with Russell Wilson expected to miss the next 4 or 5 weeks after having surgery on his middle finger on his throwing hand, everybody that has Russ needs someone to step up in his place. Kimmy, Marcus, what do they do?
Patrick, everybody who has Russell Wilson a little bit worried because he's started in about 75% of NFL.com leagues. Also, fantasy managers are a little bit worried about Daniel Jones, still TBD if he will play this week with the concussion protocol. So, Marcus, we need some short and long-term replacements for Russell Wilson. Do you have any?
I do. I got one in the short term. If you're talking about looking for somebody that can get you through the next couple of weeks, Carson Wentz with the Indianapolis Colts. Now, obviously, he plays tonight against the Baltimore Ravens. Don't really like that matchup so much, but between now and Week 10, he's got the Texans, the Titans, the Jets, and the Jaguars. So there are some favorable matchups on the schedule. Now, the ceiling isn't quite as high for Wentz as it is for Russell Wilson, but his floor's been pretty stable. He's gotten you 17.5 or more fantasy points in 3 of his 4 starts. So really, if you're replacing Russell Wilson, you just want somebody who can keep you afloat. Carson Wentz looks to be that guy. Now, if we're looking more long-term and you want to play a potentially higher ceiling, go with Trey Lance. And now, if you watched the game yesterday, there were some definite rough spots with Lance in his first NFL start, but there were also some things you saw that made you understand why the 49ers like him. We love the rushing upside. That's the biggest thing. 89 yards on the ground against the Cardinals on Sunday, 130 rushing yards in his last 6 quarters. Now, the schedule, not particularly great. He's got the Colts, Bears, the Cardinals again, and then the Rams. But again, that rushing upside is what we sort of like and what has us excited about Trey Lance.
I am trying to get Trey Lance in every single possible league as I can, because I know yesterday's performance, nothing crazy, but like you said, the long-term value in that safe floor could be there for him moving forward. If you're going to look at a long-term play, for me, it's Matt Ryan, noting that they are on a bye this week, so obviously don't grab him and plug him into your lineup, but he's still available in about 80% of NFL.com leagues. And speaking of floors, his has been pretty darn safe. He's averaging just over 25 fantasy points a game since week 4, 2+ passing touchdowns in each game since week 2. Even seeing what he did in London, mind you, it was versus the Jets. Even without Russell Gage and Calvin Ridley, he's playing well, and that safe floor is there.
What's the exchange rate on points from England to America?
I don't know, but I like it. That's all I know. I like the exchange rate for fantasy points for Matt Ryan. The YOLO play here, especially this week for me, speaking of short term, it's Taylor Heinicke. And it pains me to say this, but he goes against my Kansas City Chiefs defense, which Marcus earlier said I should call the Kansas City Cheeks defense because they're just not doing anything. But though Taylor Heinicke struggled yesterday against the Saints, he's been playing really well, and he had 3 games in a row where he had over 20 fantasy points. The matchup is there, especially against Kansas City, allowing the most fantasy points to fantasy quarterbacks this season. So YOLO play, long-term plays, we got you covered. Those were our 5 guys. Good replacements for Russell Wilson.